Okay, doing a new video, a quick one on the Milwaukee Packout. I've had lots of carry cases, toolboxes over the years, and lids have gone, hinges have gone, and so I've been wanting something like this for quite a while. Very sturdily built, handles on all the Packout boxes. The bottom one, which is the largest, has that handle there. On the sides it has those metal strips where you can attach specific Milwaukee attachments like extension leads and other bits and bobs. Sturdy wheel. It has the handle which has that little button in the middle there where you depress for pulling up and down. And you can do it with one hand. I'm actually filming with one hand here. You press the button, depress the button in the center there, and the handle lifts up, very, very light, but it still has a very sturdy feel to it. It may wobble a tiny little bit there, but believe me, it actually is very, very sturdy. This Packout that I'm using right now is loaded with all my tools, so it weighs a ton inside this thing. At the bottom there, you got that hook, so inside your van you can attach to a bungee cord, stop it flopping around if you need to. On the top it has those Packout slots, so you can attach other Milwaukee items that just slot in there. You can even get a Milwaukee Packout cooler for your cold drinks, or a flask that slots into the top there for your coffee. It's very rigid, very firm. Those hinges on my old toolboxes always seem to go very, very quickly. Here it's very, very sturdy. The lid is very thick. It's got a solid feel to it. It doesn't feel as though it's going to snap off. And it doesn't feel like it'll blow down in the wind, which is if you're on site and the wind might just blow the lid down when you're pushing it up. It has these compartments. When you open up the lid there, you can change the size of it by lifting up those little sections if you wanted to put longer sized items in there. As you can see, you can just organize it just the way that you like it, and that just fits in the top there. It's nicely snug. It isn't going to fall out if your Packout tips over, or you stack it in the van on its side. You're not going to expect those compartments to all the bits to come falling out. As you can see, it fits very snugly in. That top section there has its fixed compartments, and it clips down very nicely. It has those two clips on the side. I'm trying to do it with one hand. Yeah. It's got a good sturdy feel to it as well. I haven't once opened all the Packout toolboxes and found, screws and washers and stuff floating around on the other side of the toolbox, which I have done with various other toolboxes I've had over the years, but never with this one. The lid comes down and it forms a really good seal. I think it's probably even watertight seal around the whole of the actual toolbox itself. Well designed. Pick it up with one hand. Just got a few sockets on the bottom there. As I say, it all fits in very snug. It doesn't slop about on the inside. Again, with the compartment underneath, so you've got your one fixed compartment, and then underneath those compartments on the right hand side there, you've got those slots that you can lift up and down. That changes the size of the compartment itself. If you want to adjust it, you can. But people that are familiar with their own toolbox tend to like smaller compartments because they can fit bits and bobs in there, and they know exactly where they are in your toolbox. If you have a big open compartment, things just kind of just sloshes all together, gets mixed up. Now, when you attach that fastener down, that locking mechanism feels very, very solid, and it kind of locks with a clunk. Never had that before. It's got the handle, so once you disconnect that top toolbox, it just slides out. And the way that you do it is that little red circle in the middle there. I'm going to put my thumb, pull it up, grab hold of the handle, just pull it out, and it just comes straight out. Very, very easy. But when it clicks in with an audible click. and it's in solid. You can tip it over left, right, front, backwards, and it won't come off unless you push that little lever up with your thumb. Okay, so the next compartment is slightly bigger again. The fasteners open with a good solid clunk feel to it. It's got a section there with a metal hole so you can put your padlocks in on site. Of course, if you're on a busy work site, then you're going to need to have that padlocked because, as you know, sometimes drills and cordless and batteries and things can just go walkies. So it's nice to have that feature to padlock it. This one is open, though you can buy compartments to fit in there, but I never did with this because I've got elongated socket sets, as you can see, and I need it open to be able to fit everything in. There's quite a bit of weight in here actually. I've got most of my tools for lock and wheel nut removal fitted in here. What have we got here? Oh yeah, like a reverse socket set. My magnet for doing welding, for getting the right angles. Oh yeah, reverse thread socket set, which are quite useful, but it can be a real pain to get off. I'll do a video of how you can get those off another day. What's in this one? Loose spot. Same again, reverse thread. These tend to be only a one shot or two, maybe 3 shot use items. Those we've got our cold chisel section there. Reverse metal drill bits for when the top of the nut sheet off and you need to actually drill it out. Thankfully not often. Can't open it with one hand though. Mole grips, various assorted sockets, light, snips. Oh, my trusted tool for welding on dynamic blades. As you can see, it's quite good, quite a good size. You can get mole grips and spanners and sockets in there quite easily. Fits in quite nice. Oh, this is the blue spot conicals, smooth bore for removing locking wheel nuts. Good bit of kit. You can see actually that blue spot case is pretty flimsy considering the sockets themselves are pretty sturdy. That little clip to hold the lid down just comes off really easy. Sealy doing exactly the same kit, and their box that they use for their conical sockets is like really well made. Feels really sturdy. Reverse threads. Oh yeah, there's the punches for getting out the lock and wheel nut that's got stuck in a socket, a conical socket, or any just a standard socket really. They should be put back in its place. Oh yeah, these are Sealy. Now look at the difference in the box with this one. The quality of the build of the Sealy box that holds the conicals is much better build. A solid clasp to hold the lid down. And I think I was looking for that one, that large conical socket. I think I used that on a VW. So as you can see, you can actually get quite a lot in that middle section if you have it open plan. You can see that these sort of like pillars where you can actually attach compartments if you want to compartmentalize it if you want. But I don't like doing that. Just want to put my large or larger size items in there. As you can see, you can get quite a lot in there. That's quite a bit of weight as well that's actually on the wheels, but the wheels are sturdy enough to take that weight. The whole thing feels really well built. You know, you got quite a few sockets in there, and if you weigh that, that's pretty heavy, you know. But it handles it very, very nicely. And on the side of all of these Packout toolboxes, they have handles that are built actually into the side of the toolbox. So you have a handle on the front and actually two plastic handles that are built into as grips on the side of the toolbox. That's my trusty magnet, on a telescopic magnet. It's got a little torch built into the end of it, so if you're doing something in the dark and you're trying to pick up a nut or something, or get rid of iron filings, you've been grinding something down and you need to see what you're doing at night, then actually you can switch that light on so you can actually see what you're picking up. It's telescopic, so it's pretty useful. Don't use it that often, but sometimes when you do drop a nut somewhere that's confined, you know how difficult it is to get it out, and sometimes it can be hard to see as well, so it's good to have something with a torch. I mean, just this socket set on its own weighs a ton. This thing does. The big old fat socket set, all of that on its own is pretty heavy. So when you look at what you've actually got inside that middle section there, there's a whole load of weight. And yet when you're pulling it around, the way that it balances on those wheels is so good, and the height of the handle, it's just very, very easy to pull. I've had toolboxes before where if you have something that's really, really heavy in there, it feels as if the lid is going to pull the hinges off, or you can just see the sides lifting a little bit. The lid's lifting on the corners or something like that, or the center where the handle is lifting up, and washers and screws and, you know, all kinds of small items are shifting from one side of the toolbox to the other because you've got such a heavy weight in there. When you pull up the handle, it lifts the lid up a bit, but you don't get that with this. One button depress, lifting the handle. You can take that middle section off. Again, it has the handles on the side so that you can lift it clean up directly if you want to, or it has this middle section because it's a bigger one. It has this lift up handle at the back here, so you can just, in anticipation of using heavier items in that middle section, it has a very sturdy handle that you can just lift directly off or carry around like that if you're on site. And the bottom section is actually fixed into the trolley itself. You can, you know, pull it or lift it. I'll lift it up by that little handle at the bottom there to put into the van. Again, this is just my welding stuff here. I use dynamite blades, which I use for welding, spare welding bits. My welding gloves. Got a portable welder in there, used for stick welding. It can be a wire fed as well, actually, that one, but I just use it when I'm doing wheel repairs. I just use the stick weld. It's a lot easier to get into the lug area, much more direct. Wire fed, you've got the nozzle on the front and it's just too big to get into where your locking wheel nut is, whereas with a stick you can kind of poke it right into the back there. The only thing I can't fit in there is actually my welding mask. I can take it over and put in there. You notice that the lid's up and it stays up. Older toolboxes I've had before, you lift the lid up and it just falls straight down. You've got to kind of like hold it up with one hand and rummage around and get what you need with the other hand. Whereas with this, it feels as though the lid will just stay up, even if it was windy. It's got that kind of, you push it back and it feels like it's going to stay up. You know, it's got like a solid clunky kind of position. You know what I mean? Let's get the welding rods. They should actually be in that bottom tub there. Doing it with one hand is a bit tricky. There, I've got the lid on there. So I keep all my welding gear in the bottom, the very bottom, which is fixed to the trolley, that bottom section is. Got a torch there for heating up the nut if it needs to be. Don't use that very often, but just in case. You know how it goes. The day you don't take it is the day that you need it. I don't really need that top tray, to be honest, but it does come in handy for some bits and bobs. But it gives you an idea of what can be fitted actually into this unit. To fit it on all the sections together, you can actually mix match. You don't have to put this, that big middle section can go on the top if you want it to. It's all kind of like modular. You can attach things to it, have that on the top, have different small sections. It just fits into these little sections here, and you can just buy different attachments, different size toolboxes, ones that are clear on the top for all your screws and washers and nuts and bolts and stuff, if that's what you wanted to do. You see how I did that with one hand and it just clicked in? This is how well made it is, how well thought out it is. And you can just see there's quite a lot of weight in this already. And I just moved it by just a little bit of a tip with my foot there. You can see how easy this top section will go on there. It did make me laugh actually that you can actually buy a Milwaukee coffee flask with that special fitting on the top, so that you can actually pull it on site and your coffee doesn't spill around or fall about, you know. It just slots into one of these spare slots on the top there. So what I do is just put it on like that. This is doing all with one hand, and you can see where it would go. Kind of like line it up, and then you just push it. I just push it with my waist and hear it click as it goes in, like an audible, solid click. And now you can see I'm just pulling the whole thing. This thing's like 3/4 of a ton. I'm just pulling it with one hand on the handle there. Tip it up, move it around. It's all good. And the whole thing feels very, very solid. I feel like I could take this on a building site and go over rubble and, you know, sand and pebbles and stuff, and it'll just stay together. And previously, my gripe with all toolboxes is that hinges, clasps, fasteners, the lids break, snap, crack over years, but this feels as though it's going to be pretty solid for a long time to come. So if you're thinking about getting a new toolbox, I can, as a working person with no affiliation to Milwaukee, say that this is actually a pretty good toolbox. It feels like it's going to last a lifetime. It's that well built. So if you're thinking one, get one.